JFK that you've talked about. I do agree. I think that the Warren Commission, there's a lot of bullshit in it. I'm not sure I agree with the theories I've heard about really what happened that day. Now,
let me ask you a question. I'll tell you something.
Yeah.
You look at it very simple, okay? If you wanted, if someone said to you, what one person could be looked at to be responsible for John Kennedy's death? What person would be the most contributed the most to Jack Kennedy's death? Who would you think it would be?
The person that had the most to gain?
The person who was responsible.
Well, a lot of people think it's Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. His father,
JFK's father,
was the cause. Joe Kennedy was the cause of his son's death. Joe Kennedy pissed off a lot of people in his life. And the biggest thing, first of all, you got to go all the way back to the 20s. And Joe Kennedy's father was Joe Kennedy was a bright guy. He was a banker. He married a very powerful woman, Rose Kennedy, whose father was Honey Fitzgerald Kennedy, who was a gangster from Ireland and a politician in Boston, and he controlled the Boston Harbor, and he was the first senator up in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
and he had the Boston Bank was his, and he.
So let me ask you: you're saying that his own father is the reason for his death, JFK's death?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's no question Joe Kennedy was a terrible guy. I mean, he lobotomized his own daughter.
Well, let me just tell you something. Let me explain something to you. You know, he started in 1920s. In the 20s, he was a bootlegger, and he robbed a load of booze one time that brought him to a ground called the Purple Gang, and they said, "You're a dead man, sonny boy." And he went to his father-in-law, and his father-in-law said, "I can't help you. The only guy that can help you is in Chicago, the very first Don of Chicago." So he went out to Chicago. He sat down with Joe Esposito, and Joe Esposito said to him, "You know what, kid? You're smart." And he was a very, very clever banker. He said, "You're a very smart kid." He said, "You go home to Boston. I'll take care of the Purple Gang, but you belong to me now." And he hated being under thumb. The only money that Joe Kennedy ever put money into was the Mercantile Building downtown Chicago. And in 1925, he was asked to do something. He stole $5 million of Pathé Newsreel common share stock in broad daylight. And Hamilton Club was a club out in Chicago, which was like the New York Athletic Club, was a political-oriented club. Everybody hung out there, the president and everybody. And they tested him. They wanted to see if he could do this with Pathé Newsreel. He did it. And what they were doing was the United States was being pressured by Europe because Europe financed America, the Bankers of Geneva. So Joe Kennedy was given a task to do.
Yeah.
They did a short sell because they were being pressured. After World War I, America became a war-bearing country. We become a power now, and we became war-bearing. So that meant we were going to start making war-bearing equipment, planes, ships, everything.
All right. Yeah, let me ask you a question, though. This is a lot to digest, for sure. So let me just ask you. We're talking JFK, his son, Joe Kennedy's son. With all this that you know, talking about November 22nd, 1963, why on that day was he killed?
Okay, here's the deal. You could say, first of all, Jack Kennedy was not going to live out his term physically. He was very ill. They used to shoot him up every day. He had Addison's disease. He had 4 different diseases, and he was dying.
JFK,
his father would rather see him die the way he died than him die of sickness and put a black mark on the Kennedy family. He made him a victim of certain things. Joe Kennedy made a lot of people very angry in his life, okay?
Right.
And here's a sequence of events that took place, is that his own daughter, he had his daughter lobotomized.
Yeah, Rosemary.
He had her lobotomized because she suffered from a disorder that people suffer from every day there, but they treat it with medication.
Right.
They didn't have the medication in those days, so he lobotomized her. She sat in an institution all her life before she died.
I know.
Okay?
That was a horrible thing.
Well, that's how cold-hearted this guy was, okay?
Right.
Now, he orchestrated the crash of 29 through what he did in the political stuff that they had him do. Caused the crash of 29.
Okay, so he was behind a lot of fucked up shit.
He angered a lot of people. Here he is, Jack Kennedy, comes out to California to get nominated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the process of him being nominated, Joe Kennedy assured everybody that he had all the electoral votes in his pocket and everything. Boom, was a slam dunk. He came out here, he gave suitcases full of money. He took suitcases full of money from H.L. Hunt for a guy named Lyndon Johnson to run as vice president. Gets 2 days into the nominations, and Jack Kennedy's in trouble. The electoral votes he thought he was getting, his father didn't together as well as he did. We called Chicago, and he said to Sam Giancana, I'm in trouble. We need your help. Sam said, I thought you had this all taken care of. He said, no, we need your help. So Sam Giancana, for the very first time in the history of politics, Illinois turned Democrat.
Right.
Now, as soon as he's president, the first thing that Giancana and everybody asked was, what happens with this asshole Bobby? What are you going to do with him? He's already a pain in our ass with his fight against crime bullshit. Oh, we're going to make him ambassador to Ireland. Don't worry, he won't even be in the country. Well, he made him his head. He told Jack, make your brother attorney general. And then he told Bobby, put all my good friends in jail. So he went after Sam Giancana, he went after everybody. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what. Then he turns around and he says to his son Jack, those guys down there in Texas, all that oil money, they got this surplus oil down there that they're not paying any tax on. They're making a fortune. You got to put a tax on them. So they put a tax on surplus oil, which costs the people down there about $200 million a year. Lee Harvey Oswald was Apache. Lee Harvey Oswald's mother hung around with a lieutenant of Carlos Marcellus in New Orleans. Lee Harvey Oswald worked for naval intelligence. In Texas and New Orleans, there were clubs, gay clubs, that a lot of heavyweight military people used to go to. Well, it was not fashionable to be gay in the military at the time. So Lee Harvey Oswald used to dress up as a military officer with a microphone on him, and he would go and solicit these guys at bars and get tapes on them, and they were blackmailing them. He thought he was going to be, they did a series one time called I Led 3 Lives. He thought he was going to be the next super spy in America. He hung around a guy named George de Mournchild. George de Mournchild was Zapruder's partner.
Zapruder?
The guy who did Zapruder tape. The Zapruder tape of the Kennedy assassination.
You're saying Zapruder was not just filming. He was something else going on with him.
Zapruder never held a camera in his hands in his life.
I mean, you realize this is, it's been spoken about. I mean, he was interviewed.
Let me tell you something. Listen to me very carefully. And I know this for a fact. Zapruder never had a camera in his hands in his life before. 2 women were holding his legs because he suffered from vertigo. He never took his finger off of the trigger of that camera, and there were 13 gunshots right all around him. Bullets hitting the concrete right next to him. He never flinched. The film was sold already to Life magazine for $150,000 before it was ever shot. The film was processed in a laboratory in Dallas, Texas, that was owned by the Murchison family. 8 frames were taken out of the Zapruder film. The film was never saw for a year. No one ever saw it until a year after the assassination.
When they showed the film,
and there were 8 frames missing out of it.
They showed the film for the first time on TV in the 70s. You're telling me that?
Yeah, they did. The FBI, after the FBI got it and altered it, but there were 8 frames missing out of it.
And what did those 8 frames show?
Showed the driver turn around and shoot Jack. The last shot came from the driver of the car.
And has that been seen since?
Yeah, that was what they showed on television.
See, because I've seen now, I actually noticed that. I'm like, if you look at I think it was frame 313, right? If you look at that moment, it does look.
Well, you got to understand something. Here's all these shots being fired. The car, now here, first of all, you got the President of the United States in an open car going down Dealey Plaza, the Bird Building, which is the book depository, had all the windows open. People were walking around inside. That should never have happened with the President of the United States below it in an open car. You had people get off the train station walking across the bridge, one of them being Woody Harrelson's father, who was a hitman for New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
There were 32 people in Dealey Plaza that day that could have killed Kennedy.
Okay, now, just to kind of sum it all up, who... You said, I mean, earlier you mentioned his father. His
father angered a lot of people.
Right.
And what that created was the bankers of Geneva, whom he argued, the people he hurt the most were there. There were so many different things happening of angry people that they were played. The people in America, the CIA, the people in Dallas, all of them were played because a man from Europe set the whole thing up. It took them 4 months to reroute that thing down Dealey Plaza.
Okay, so JFK, the main figure in all of this was he.
You ever hear of a picture called the Jackal?
No.
You never heard a guy called the Jackal?
Who is that?
The Jackal was the number one assassin in Europe. His name is Carlos Sanchez. There's a guy sitting in jail in France right now that they say is Carlos Sanchez, but he's not. He's sitting there doing time for the guy. He was the premier assassin in Europe. He set up the Kennedy hit at Dealey Plaza.
He fired what shot?
He didn't fire any shots. He raised his umbrella.
Oh, to signal everything. So
that's right.
Okay, so who was firing the shots?
The first shot came from a cauldron in the street. You know what a cauldron is?
Right, yeah.
Okay, that cauldron today has just been cemented in. That cauldron, I could stand in there, and I could walk from the river to that street in that cauldron. That's how big it was. Johnny Rizzelli was in the cauldron with a rifle. The first shot that hit Kennedy in the throat came from Johnny Rizzelli.
That came from the back or front?
Came from the front.
They came from the front.
Jack Kennedy got shot in the back, in the lower part of his back, that never came out until 10 years later.
And which bullet hit Connolly?
He got shot in the lower part of his back. The first shot hit him in the throat. He grabbed his throat, and he fell forward onto Connolly's body. Connolly was the first one shot. Connolly fell. Jack fell on top of him. And then the driver turned around and took the last shot, which you see Jack go flying backwards, because he shot him right in the forehead.
I mean, I seen the footage, and it does appear like the driver does turn around and do that. But I mean, I'm just saying, I saw what looked to be a glare on the passenger's head that looked like it was the gun. I know you probably think that's ridiculous, but that's how I saw it.
You can see it in his hand, actually. The footage that is there, you actually see the gun in his hand, and you see the puff of smoke come out of it.
I mean, yeah, I know the frame, and
you got to understand, all this happened in 28 seconds.
Okay. Let's take away all the background stuff that you know about Joe Kennedy, about the illness of JFK.
Yeah.
Take away all that stuff. Would it be possible for the greatest marksman in the world to be in the 6th floor of the book depository, whatever floor it was? I think that was it. To make those shots.
No.
Absolutely not.
No. I'll tell you what. You ask any person who's a sniper. All right. Mm-hmm. Anybody has any knowledge of a rifle.
Right.
And you ask them this question. They bought a mail-order gun. That was a mail-order rifle, okay? And it was a bolt-action rifle, all right?
Yeah.
Now, for a marksman to take a shot of 1,000 feet with a car moving, downgrade, wind there so bad that the motorcycle cops couldn't even hear their microphones, the wind down in Dealey Plaza.
Uh-huh.
You had trees, signs, all obstacles. For a guy to take that shot, first of all, he has to arrest his heart down below 60 because his pulse is in his finger. Now, There's no way in God's name that guy takes 3 shots out of a bolt-action gun in 28 seconds. Impossible.
Not
Never, ever happen.
The greatest shot in the world could make that.
No. And it wasn't, how could he shoot him from behind when you see his head blow out from the front?
But if the bullet hits him in it looked like the side of the head, right? The right side?
He got hit right in the front. The back of his head blew out. Jackie Kennedy, they said, was trying to collect his brains. It's bullshit. She was trying to get out of the car because she thought they were going to shoot her next.
So why the hell didn't she say anything about the driver doing it?
Because when they got her out of the car, if you looked at the Zapruder film, you saw the Secret Service guy peeled away from Kennedy's car. When all the gunshots started, they had to run back up to the car, and they're running up to catch her coming out of the car.
Right.
And when she came out of the car, they whispered in her ear, "If you open your mouth about what you just saw, we will kill your children." And she never opened her mouth.
And that was Clint Hill, who was jumping on the back of the car. He's the one that said it?
That's right. All those Secret Service guys were at Jack Ruby's club the night before, and they all got envelopes. You understand that?
So Jack Ruby, in the end, when he took out Oswald, what was that about?
Jack Ruby worked for the mafia.
And
Jack Ruby was a go-between between Cuba and America.
So when Jack Ruby killed the patsy Oswald, as you say, what was his motivation?
How could Jack Ruby get into a place like that with a weapon on him if it wasn't orchestrated?
Hey, I'm not.
And when Lee Harvey Oswald just shot the president of the United States, they would not say it was a federal case because they said it was a one-man conspiracy. Wasn't a group, so the feds can't get involved, which is bullshit. He just shot the president.
Yeah, right.
They did not take one note. They did not tape one conversation of any of the interviews with him. There's no record of any interviews with Oswald. And when he came out into that garage, the guy that was standing next to him, the officer, if you looked at the footage, he stepped away from him.
Yeah, there's no...
As Ruby approached him.
Right.
So, he was married to a Russian. They designed for him to go to Russia. He married a KGB daughter.
Yeah.
And he shot his mouth everywhere he lived over there. He kept moving from apartment to apartment. It was all bugged, and he kept talking. They threw him out of Russia. Now he's a throwaway. He wasn't even in the building when those shots were fired out of that window.
So I guess it leads to the question, J.D. Tippit, what happened there?
They killed. Tippit got killed. Exactly, there were 2 Tippits. Tippit got killed on Ruby's on Oswald's way back home to the house where he was living at. And I had a writer walk from the book depository, stop at the Tippit thing, and go to his house. It never happened in the time frame. I mean, here's the biggest thing that ever happened in our country, and they've lied about it for so long.
So when did the planning first start, do you assume?
5 months before it happened.
Mm-hmm. And that was...
They were supposed to... That wasn't the route that he was supposed to take. And here's a good one for you. Who was the number 1 cop in the country when Jack Kennedy got killed?
His brother.
That's right, Attorney General.
Yeah.
And 4 people went to him, one of them being Adlai Stevenson, who had been in Texas right before Jack went down there. 4 people went to him and said, do not let your brother go to Texas. There is so much animosity down there. He's in serious trouble if he goes there. Bobby Kennedy, who is his brother's second skin, his whole political career, everywhere Jack went, Bobby went. Bobby didn't go before, he wasn't there during, and he never went afterwards to Dallas, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, wow.
And he was the number 1 cop in the country.
Right.
So you can go, they can put 30 theories around, and they can talk all kinds I was there.
Yeah.
They can talk all the bullshit they want. I was out doing my road work that morning, and I saw Johnny Rizzo. He was running the same park I was.
Wow.
And he said to me, I thought you were supposed to leave town. I said, I'm getting on a plane in about an hour. He said, good, get out of here. So you can't, the whole bullshit, there's more bullshit that flies around, and people buy it because this guy said it, and that guy said it, and this guy said it. But if you just sit there and look at the simple facts of what really happened, it all fits like a glove.
I mean, I'm sure you do know that the amount of talk about this JFK thing has been. I mean, how many different speculations there have been. So I'm sure you've been called a conspiracy theorist, right?
I never talk to political bullshit people. I don't, it's just none of my business. I know what happened. I was there. So and I'll tell you, Greer on his deathbed told his son what happened. His son has been on the Jesse Van what's his name show. And he's told,
Jesse Ventura?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went on his show and he told the truth about what his father told him and showed him a document.
That's the driver's son.
Yeah. He died in Texas.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's really incredible stuff. So yeah, it's definitely fascinating, and a lot of it's outlined in your book, Family Legacy, which I will leave a link to the Amazon so people could check it out and see for themselves, right?
There you go.
All right, very good. So it's been really great talking with you, Jack. I do appreciate you taking time and coming on the show.
I appreciate it. We had a good time, man.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Let me know what your feedback is. It'll be interesting.
I certainly will. So thanks again, Jack.
Take care, man. Have a good day.
All right, thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.